In the Hinayana path, the bottom line is that the Hinayana path is all about acknowledging our neurosis, which means learning to see, for instance, our thoughts and how repetitive and petty and egoic, they are as they arise in our minds and pass away again and again. And really that's what the beginning stage of the path is for, is to begin to realize the depth of our suffering and confusion. The Mahayana stage of the path is when we begin to realize our awakened mind, what it means to become a Buddha. And we can see those two elements at play constantly. They're always there as we tread the path, because we find ourselves lost in thought, anxious, judgmental thought, dream, and then we find ourselves lost in thought, and we're not, because we've woken up. And at that point, we have the opportunity to be open to the present world. The technique, we do this sitting on the cushion, and it's important to do this sitting on the cushion. At some point, it will become so much a part of each one of us that we won't really need to sit on the cushion, and yet we'll keep doing it because it's a symbol of our discipline. But we won't need it because when we get up from the cushion, we'll still be doing it again and again. And here's a little tip that the Vidyadhara gave in this chapter from Rinpoche about how you do it in daily life. And this is a really good one, which is you're walking down the street, you're lost in thought, you realize you're lost in thought, you come back and you flash on the openness. And you just do that. You flash on it. You don't hold onto it. You let it go. You open, you flash on it, you see the awareness, you're aware, and you disown it. As though you're willing to go back into the dream until the next time. That technique of letting go is really good, because if you try to hold on to it, then it becomes tedious, because you can't. As soon as you try to hold on to it, there's you in there again. And you've got another very repetitive dream going on about me and my meditation practice and my accomplishment and all that. So the technique is you come back, you feel the freshness of that moment of wake up, and you let go until the next time. He called it, he said, open and disown. Open and disown. Disown it. It's not mine. Let it go. It's a great technique to do. Very helpful. Huh?
It ain't personal.
Right, it ain't personal. And then finally, here's another thing he says, that we can't, actually, he says, the stepping stone to getting rid of, or to getting out of this trap of neurosis, is we take the Bodhisattva vow. And with the Bodhisattva vow, we say, I devote my life to work with sentient beings and renounce my own attainment of enlightenment. That's pretty radical. You have to realize that the point is to be here in the present moment. And that in the present moment, as he puts it here, he says, actually, we cannot attain enlightenment until we give up the notion of me personally attaining it. There is no me. It's a fiction. It's not like you have to give up very much. All one has to do is come back into the present again, as we do so often. And in that moment, there is no me. That's where enlightenment lives, is we come back again and again. It's like reclaiming our lives. And it says, so I write here, so we must realize egolessness. And the realization of egolessness can only come through the practice of meditation. Now, he doesn't necessarily mean just sort of watching your breath. He's talking about the practice of cultivating awareness. It's really meditation with a big M. It's having to do with becoming sane. Relating with discursive thoughts, and gradually working back through the 5 skandhas. That means you're sort of peeling away your neurosis, We could talk about that another time. When meditation becomes an habitual way of relating with daily life, a person can take the Bodhisattva vow. That means when you really start to make a commitment in your daily life to wanting to wake up, again and again. In taking the vow, we acknowledge confusion and chaos, all the kleshas. The kleshas are the defilements, passion, lust, anger, jealousy, hatred, stupidity, sloth, greed. We acknowledge all that confusion and chaos as part of the path. We are seeing confusion and awakening equally. And that is how we tread the path, by seeing them both. You can't get rid of the confusion. If you do that, you turn it into an enemy and it just latches onto you. Just can't do it. He talks about the heroism of this path, that it's a path that we tread completely alone. And that the entrance to it is when we begin to realize, we begin to really truly understand what reality is, which is what happens here in the present. And we are beginning now to shift our loyalty to that. And the realization of that and the beginning to sort of wake up to that is what's called the first Bhumi. The Bhumi is a word, in Tibetan the word is sa, which means earth. It's usually translated as stage or platform of the path. There are 10 Bhumis on the Bodhisattva path. They're stages. The most remarkable of them is the first Bhumi. It's the one that has sort of the greatest explosion. The practitioner notices it and is very joyful. In fact, that's what it's called. The name of the first Bhumi is joyful, great joy. Pramudita. Mudita means joy, and pra is an intensifier. So it means great joy. And the joy is that one begins to realize that you can actually wake up, that we can do it, that we can come present, we can shift our loyalty, and that it's by doing it again and again and again, it's beginning to take hold and have an effect. That's a great joy. And in that, what that allows us then to do is to understand what egolessness is, this emptiness of the myth, of the fiction that we've been telling ourselves, that it's just that. It's an empty fiction. Just like Mickey Mouse, or Minnie Mouse. It has no more reality than that, a story.
What's a fiction?
I.
Oh, I.
And he says, you've broken through something. You are free of your paranoid, neurotic fears and preconceptions. At least for a moment. You have shifted your loyalty, to be sure, but you still see the clouds. That means with compassion. So on the one hand, there's the sun of awareness, every time we come back to the present, and there are the clouds of dreams and thoughts which obscure it from time to time. Often a lot of time. And we see them both. It's very essential to see them both. You don't have to do much more than that. Just see them. He says, for the first time you are a rich person. You contain basic sanity. You're beginning to realize that it's your birthright, that it's what we are at core. You have something to offer. You are free to work with your fellow sentient beings in a real way, stripped of these egoistic trips. And then there's tremendous compassion that is born in this too, and generosity. Because when it's suddenly in this world, the real world, there's a lot of warmth and heat and friendship and love. And one can actually start to respond. We're talking about first thought. This is where first thought lives. And this is where one knows automatically how to relate with heart and warmth to the other people in the world. How to give in a very genuine way, without preconception and without expecting anything in return, but because our hearts are opening. So, And this is also the birth of shunyata, which I'm not going to go into tonight. It's another subject that comes up later on. I can't remember if it does in Myth of Freedom. It certainly does in Cutting Through. But we'll definitely go into that. But shunyata is basically sort of super egolessness. It's just the egolessness of everything. But he talks a lot here about prajna. Prajna is the capacity of intelligence, which we discover when we come into the present moment. And it's sharp, it's clear, it's everything that we see that is so clearly illumined in the absence of confused thoughts. Everything just is what it is. And we can look at somebody and we can almost read their minds. You tell a lot when you look. Instead of looking and reacting, and having your own preconceptions, you can actually look at that person and see what's going on inside them. Feel it. You can empathize. So you become much more intelligent. Prajna is this quality of non-dual intelligence that happens when we begin to come into the present moment. Because I is gone, I other is gone. Everything is just brilliantly, clearly revealed, lit, sharp. And that's this quality of prajna, which means pra is that intensifier again, like pramudita, great joy. Prajna. Jna is the root of the word to know. Prajna, sort of super knowing. So I'm going to go pretty fast here, because what happens, you see, is the rest of the 10 Bhumis, 2nd through 8, each carry with them a transcendent virtue. Transcendent because it's not going from an egotistical I to a fictional other. Rather, it's part of the field that one is beginning to see more and more clearly. Okay? So the first one is generosity. That's the paramita, the transcendent virtue that's connected with the first Bhumi. Having come back into the present moment, you're terrifically inspired to be generous, to give, to be part of the world, to be in communication with others. Your heart goes out. The second Bhumi, this openness and commitment to the present moment, you see, it's just deepening and deepening. And they call this the paramita of discipline. And what this means is that frivolousness, your frivolous thoughts begin to mitigate, they begin to dissipate. You're becoming much more disciplined, but not in a sense of like beating yourself up, being very strict on yourself, goose-stepping or, polishing your shoes to the nth degree, like I had to do in military school one summer. It has to do with having a really spotless mind, beginning to come present more and more, and to really enjoy it. He says, and also one gives up fantasies. The fantasies, the hopeful, wishful fantasies. So he says, we do not have to concern ourselves with the cosmic world, the world of gods, psychic powers, angels, devils. To do so may be to lose track of the physical world in which we live, and this results in madness. The test of the Bodhisattva's sanity is how directly he, and this was back in the days when we always used the masculine pronoun, now they've changed it all to she, he, she, or something like that, is how she directly relates to earth. Anything else is a sidetrack. This is earth. We're sitting on it. We're in the middle of it right now. It's this stuff. And that's what he's saying. The third Bhumi is connected with the paramita, the transcendent virtue of patience. And what that means is we don't feel the need to be anywhere else. We're not sort of driven by that, get out my cell phone. What am I going to do for entertainment now? I'm hungry. I think I'll go to the fridge. We constantly trying to quell anxiety. We don't have that. We come back into this open state and we begin to develop true patience, the ability to just relax here in the present and respond appropriately to whatever we encounter. The fourth is called virya, and that is energy or joy or delight, that we begin to take real delight in working with the world as it arises in this present. See, it's just a heating up, a deepening of the Bodhisattva's entrance into this world. And these are the virtues that it's like that come clearer and clearer as the stone is polished, as it were, or the lamp is polished, you might say. And the fifth Bhumi is the Bhumi of meditation, which is what we've been doing tonight. He says it's panoramic awareness, and it's in Sanskrit, the basic word for it is vipassana. In Chinese, it was called Chan. In Japanese, Zen. Awareness without a watcher. It's like we don't need a watcher, to comment on this right now. We're all completely aware of what's going on in the room at this very moment, without the need of the watcher. And when the watcher appears and says, "Oh, that's good, that's bad, I'm doing it, now I'm not doing it," who cares? It's just this sort of... Rinpoche used to call that voice the hitchhiker. You don't really need that voice. It's just a hit sort of sitting on your shoulder. He says, I'm going to just speed this up. He said, and then he cautions us that all along what's making this still a path and why the Bodhisattva isn't enlightened is because as the Bodhisattva comes more and more into the present, there is a subtler and subtler watcher who is saying, now you're doing it. Now you're coming into the present. Maybe this is the fourth paramita, They're saying, good one. And that voice just gets thinner and thinner, but it's the voice of spiritual materialism. It's the subtle voice of ego thinning out. It's like the ego hangs around and says, "Ooh, now I'm experiencing egolessness." This is egolessness, and that becomes a subtler ego. Because it's true. You really are discovering egolessness, but there's this watcher that says, "Good one. Ooh, this is great." And one has to let go of that because it's a sobering up process. It's like we're sobering up from a drunk, and we're still a little drunk, but we're getting soberer and soberer as that voice. You begin to realize you don't need it, anymore. It's wearing out. So that's the fifth Bhumi, and the sixth Bhumi is the Bhumi of prajna, where prajna really takes hold, this clear intelligence that sees the world truly as it is. What does he